very good evening and warm welcome to Breaking Today. My name is Lincoln Umbogo. Our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. We have a lot prepared for you tonight, but first, let's take a look at the headlines. 68 students and 5 teachers test positive for COVID-19 at Bahati Girls Secondary School. Deputy President William Ruto's allies call on the government to be fair in enforcing the ban on political gatherings and rallies. The United States sees protests and arrests over voter counting as Biden edges ahead in the elections. We are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter at Switch TV Kenya. Send in your feedback to our SMS 111 and at Lincoln Umbogo on all my social media handles. 68 students and 5 teachers at Bahati Girls Secondary School have tested positive for COVID-19 and have been taken to isolation. According to the county government of Nakuru, one student who tested positive for COVID-19 developed some complications and is being attended to at the Nakuru PGH COVID-19 Isolation and Management Center. This happens a day after President Kenyatta directed all learners in Grade 4, Standard 8 and Form 4 to proceed with their classes and national examinations. Meanwhile, the learning pattern in different schools within the country has shifted gears, with some teachers taking charge of protecting students from going against the set protocols by the Ministry of Health in combating COVID-19. Many teachers and students have continued to adapt to the new normal. Majibu Kitsao reports.
At Nairobi South Primary, learning is going on for Grade 4 class. All students here are wearing masks in accordance with the Ministry of Health protocols. According to the school headmistress Jane Donye, what President Uhuru Kenyatta said yesterday goes well with her thinking on safety of students and teachers.
It was our expectations that we would continue with education with classes 8 and 4. For those ones who are staying at home, we had not expected them to be brought back because nothing has changed.
She also said that the school activities have been fully transformed by coronavirus pandemic, as they are required to be careful in whatever they do.
And we have divided the classes into very small numbers. We used to have classes of over 50, between 50 and 60. Now we are having classes of 20.
What is called A? Sorry.
The biggest challenge she and other teachers are facing at Nairobi South Primary School is managing the young pupils at Grade 4 class, majorly on social distancing.
Class 8 are a little bit easy to manage, but Grade 4 are difficult a lot because most of the times they are forgetting their masks. You find them praying and sometimes they put them aside.
The students who went back to school after the Ministry of Education directions are Grade 4, Class 8 and Form 4, and they will stay until they sit for the examinations.
Now, by the look of things, it is evident that it's no longer business as usual. Students maintaining social distancing, wearing masks and hand sanitizers all over. All these measures being put in place to try and ensure that they contain COVID-19. Majibu Kisao, Switch TV News, Nairobi.
Thank you, Majibu, for that story. Moving on, health unions have expressed their concern over the situation of the health sector in the country during this COVID-19 period. Speaking at Uhuru Park, Nairobi, through their chairperson, they have reiterated that the Ministry of Health needs to be depoliticized since there are no promotions, no clearly defined contracts and no specialized cadres. Take a look.
Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in Kenya, health workers have shown a remarkable resilience and professional dedication despite a fear of becoming infected and infecting others.
We expected the government to treat this with urgency and actually to ensure that that provision is there. We are several months down since the infection, despite that this was an issue which was pre-existing before the COVID-19. But the COVID-19 has worsened the situation, where the healthcare workers have been left on their own.
According to the union chairman, the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic has even made matters worse, with some of the health practitioners acquiring PPEs for themselves.
We have seen our positivity rate go even as high as 15, and we had even gone as low as 4 point something. And this is because of the relaxation of the measures and the fact that there was a lot of misinformation to Kenyans, and even the handling by the government where they militarized public health interventions may have actually brought in a sort of rebellious attitude from Kenyans.
According to the medics, the recent directives by the president might help flatten the curve if Kenyans are disciplined enough to follow all the protocols.
If we were all to have a mask on, a sanitizer, and wash our hands, even as we go on with our businesses without having to limit anything, we would actually cut the transmission by more than half, probably by 75%. So it boils down to individual responsibility.
Another major grievance raised by the medics is that their promotions have not been processed for almost 10 years, and the government has not made their promise of facilitating promotions within 2 months since September this year. The Nairobi Metropolitan Service has, however, won the case in court, with the workers being ordered to go back to work within 48 hours. The Health Ministry is asking for promotions in all cadres, with budgetary allocation on the medical cover across all medical workers in the country. They have insisted that if this is not addressed, they will not go back to work. Nyakundi Kelvin, Switch TV.
Thank you, Nyakundi Calvin, for that story. Moving on, the decision made by the government to de-escalate COVID measures on the 27th of September this year was informed by the then reduced numbers in coronavirus infections. But according to President Kenyatta, the government is reinstating the measures and protocols by the Ministry of Health to combat the recent surge in coronavirus within the country.
Kenya was on a partial lockdown since March until August, when restrictions were eased and bars reopened. In the month of April, coronavirus pandemic was increasing its infection in the country. President Uhuru Kenyatta imposed a 3-week ban on movement in and out of 4 main coronavirus infected areas, including the capital Nairobi, before the usually busy Easter weekend due to the surge in coronavirus.
We then went through the process of reviewing where our strengths lie and where are our weaknesses, and how can we forge ahead in the coming months.
In June of this year, the government made the decision to reopen the country with a fallen positivity rate.
When we made the decision to reopen the country, our positivity rate had fallen from 13% in June of this year to 7% in July, and to a low of 4% in September.
In the month of September, the infections rate went down to 4%, but in the month of October, the percentage shot 4 times higher, only in 38 days, with 15,000 infections and 300 deaths.
When it dropped to 4% in September, has now shot up to an incredible 16% in the month of October.
The country is now experiencing the second wave of coronavirus, with the cumulative infection in the country standing at over 58,000, with over 1,000 deaths since March this year. Emmanuel Terer, Switch TV.
Thank you, Emmanuel Terer, for that story. Elsewhere, Deputy President William Ruto's allies have called on the government to be fair in enforcing the ban on political gatherings and rallies for a period of 60 days, as announced by President Kenyatta yesterday. Tigania West Member of Parliament John Mutunga has faulted the law enforcers for always appearing to target Deputy President William Ruto. Joel Charter with more.
In a quest to stop the spread of COVID-19, President Uhuru Kenyatta banned all political gathering for the next 60 days in his speech yesterday while addressing the nation on COVID-19 for the 13th time.
and anyone wishing to hold such meetings should do so in town halls, and in doing so, must observe all COVID protocols, including limiting the attendees to 1/3 seating capacity of the hall and the wearing of face masks.
The move has now sparked reactions, with Tangatanga allies suspecting that it could be a way in favor of the Building Bridges initiative, in which the process of collecting over 1 million signatures within a month is being expected to begin.
This is a democracy. Kenya is a democratic country, and in a democracy there is freedom of expression and freedom of, our constitution is very clearly stipulated, the freedom of association. So we should not have misuse of power in as far as breaking the law is concerned.
They now want the measures announced yesterday to be applied equally to all individuals and parties.
We should not see selective application of the decrees set by the president or by the country, because what happened last time is that the rallies were suspended, but you could still find gatherings, huge gatherings organized by people who believe they are part of the government, and of course, maybe closer to the powers, which I think is wrong.
However, their sentiments have been dismissed.
I want to correct my colleagues who are alleging that the president has stopped rallying because of issues to deal with the politics. This is a very serious disease, and I would like to ask every Kenyans actually to observe social distance and do everything that is necessary to prevent more cases of COVID-19.
Already, the deputy president, who did not want to be caught off guard, announced that he will reduce his public engagements until further notice, cancelling his weekend political engagements in Cumberland a day before the president's speech. Joel Chacha, Switch TV, Nairobi.
And with Joel Chacha's story, now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. Keep on tweeting at Switch TV Kenya at Lincoln Ombogo. Send in your feedback to our SMS 111 444 111. There's 653,000 economic stimulus desks that have been given to local artisans for construction are now at an advanced stage, with CS George Magoha giving a government commitment that the desks will be delivered and the artisans paid the next 1 week. The CS also disclosed the ministry's plans to adjust the current timetable to ensure that the students do not lose the whole academic year.
We had given commitment of government that by the grace of God, next week Friday, should find when all the desks have been made, the quality assurance done, delivered to children, and the Juakali artisans paid the whole total of 1.9 billion Kenya shilling. As far as examinations are concerned, we are going ahead to prepare the students for exams, and the exams shall be done. We shall tweak a timetable which we shall make public very, very soon, but it will not be materially different from the one that we had given before. And we still hope that as we even open in January, we shall be able to rearrange the timetable in such a way that the children do not lose the whole academic year.
Persons living with disability with extraordinary talents succeed and contribute to the world's economy every day in their strength of character and determination to succeed. Tonight, we tell you a story on persons living with disability but have proved that disability for them is not inability. Andrew Kero with his story.
So badala kuenda pale town kuwa naomba hicho kiungo ambacho ninacho kinafanya kazi na kina uwezo, wacha nikikifanyishe kazi. Naona juu yenyewe mikono iko na uwezo, ni miguu yenyewe huenda ikawa iko chini, lakini mikono iko na uwezo.
Many unemployed people with healthy challenges and those living with disabilities face complex barriers that they must overcome if they are to be successful in their quest for decent living.
Kuomba leo na uombe kesho haitakusaidia juu leo unanipea, kesho yake utanipea.
To begin with, very few people living with disabilities have had a good chance of employment. Similarly, disability can easily push people into poverty.
According to the 2019 census, 2.2%, equivalent to 0.9 million of Kenyans, live with some form of disability. The 2019 census, however, indicates that 1.9% of men live with a disability, compared with 2.5% of women.
Poverty can be the cause of disability, particularly in developing countries where issues around food insecurity, malnutrition, water and sanitation, and lack of health care services can increase the likelihood of people developing a disability. Festus Mugambi is a cobbler in Mathare North who has decided to use the available opportunities to unlock the untapped potential market despite his condition.
No, akija aone kazi kama hii nafanya, at least hata akiniletea kazi nimfanyia, nasikia huyu jamaa hata akinilipisha 50 mahali, utaona mwingine anatoa 100. Ananiambia kunywa soda.
Getting to work from home is one challenge because he has to ride the wheelchair, which according to him is so hectic to use since it does not match the recommendations of healthy experts. With the COVID-19 pandemic, Festus has faced hurdles. His business dwindled, translating to huge losses.
Nimelete kazi yangu ikakuwa chini kabisa. Kwa saa hizi kusema ukweli, hata ukiangalia zile viatu niko nazo hapa, zingine zimekaa.
We made a visit to the Association for the Physically Disabled in Kenya, APDK, in Westlands. A busy day as usual. One can be forgiven for thinking that this is an ordinary manufacturing company for wheelchairs, but uniquely on the front line of the production are people living with disabilities.
So we are now taking up the challenge of capacity building, developing the skills, so that we are now able to compete equitably for people with or without disabilities. They're able to develop from a simple portrait to a real gadget.
Stephen, who lost his feet to polio at a young age, is an engineer by profession. He amazingly finds his way through traffic since he has mastered the art of driving, and provided he gets to the doorstep of any car, the rest is a smooth ride.
When I was working for APDK, I got scholarship and went to Sweden Stockholm University. That's why I learned making these gadgets for people's abilities. So from when I came back, I started doing it on my own in Juakali.
Festus Mugambi says he wishes to own a proper wheelchair since he is not in a position to purchase one at the moment.
They say disability is not inability, even though life for Festus Mugambi has not been the same since COVID-19 hit the country earlier this year. Putting food on the table is undebatable. Just like many, Festus says that living with a disability is not easy, especially in a world where stigmatization is close to the norm. Andrew Kero, Switch TV at Mathare North in Nairobi.
Thank you, Andrew Kero, for that story. Elsewhere, the U.S. election appears to be inching closer to an outcome, with Democrat Joe Biden appearing to be on track for winning enough states in the race to the White House. This even as his challenger, incumbent President Donald Trump, threatens to undermine their victory by challenging its legality in court. Trump's legal challenge comes after it becomes clear that it will be difficult for the Republican to withstand a late blue surge in states such as Michigan, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Safi Godana with his story.
The knife-edge U.S. presidential race tilted towards Democrat Joe Biden early Thursday, with wins in Michigan and Wisconsin bringing him close to a majority, but President Donald Trump claimed he was being cheated and went to court to try and stop vote counting. Tallying of votes continued through a second night in the remaining battleground states, where a huge turnout and a mountain of mail-in ballots sent by voters trying to avoid exposure to the coronavirus made the job harder. Both candidates still have paths to hit the magic number of 270 electoral votes, representing a majority of states, thereby winning the White House. By flipping the northern battlegrounds of Michigan and Wisconsin and also winning formerly pro-Trump Arizona, Biden reached 264 electoral votes against 214 so far for Trump. To reach 270, he was hoping next to add the 6 electoral votes from Nevada, where he had a tiny lead, or even better, the larger prizes of Fort Georgia or Pennsylvania. Tension also shifted to the streets, even if so far there has not been the kind of unrest that some feared just ahead of the election, prompting businesses in several major city centers to board up windows. In Detroit, a Democratic stronghold that is majority black, a crowd of mostly white Trump supporters chanted "Stop the count" and tried to barge into an election office before being blocked by security. U.S. news networks showed an aggressive pro-Trump crowd also gathering outside a vote-counting office in the important Arizona county of Maricopa, which includes Phoenix, with Bali law enforcement officers forming a protective line at the facility's door. Some of the protesters openly carried firearms, which is legal in the state. The tight White House race and recriminations evoked memories of the 2000 election between Republican George W. Bush and Democrat Al Gore. The race that eventually ended up in the Supreme Court, which halted a recount while George Bush was ahead. The U.S. elections projected estimated total turnout at around 160 million, including more than 101.1 million early voters, 65.2 million of whom cast ballots by mail amid the pandemic. Safi Godanamamo, Switch TV.
Thank you, Safi Godana, for keeping us up to date with what's happening in the United States. It's time now to delve deep into the world of commerce with Clifford Ndubi.
All right, it's time for business. Good evening and welcome. My name is Clifford Ndubi. Now, bars and restaurants owners are partly taking responsibility for the upsurge of the coronavirus. As a result, the government yesterday ordered the closure of all bars by 9 p.m. compared to the previous time, which was 11 p.m. Joan Kutuni talked to one of the bar owners and she filed the following report.
The entertainment joints have been accused of flouting the government policies by exceeding the opening hours to the late hours of the night after the president eased the restricted measures on the night curfew. These has encouraged the revelers to break the curfew hours, among other rules, leading to both health and safety risks, something Pascal Opar, the owner of Hotel Mint and Salt, agrees with.
I think let me just call it the misbehavior was witnessed more in bars compared to restaurants and eateries. Yeah.
Pascal has pleaded with the bar owners to exercise precaution and the entertainers to be responsible.
We as the bar owners, the restaurant owners, we've put the measures to make sure that at least we maintain the social, the 1 meter distance. But you see also, I think it's the behavior of me, myself. Like you see, of course, I'd go to a bar or I'd come to a restaurant and I'd meet a friend and you'd find in the course of us guys mingling, we'll kind of forget about that. So it's a personal responsibility. It is not about bars, it's not about restaurants, it's about personal responsibility.
The hospitality industry in Kenya has faced a severe damage when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic impact. But the only solution to make sure that we curb the spread is to follow the provided guidelines. Reporting for Switch TV News, my name is Joan Kutuni.
Thank you, Joan Kutuni, for that story. Now, elsewhere, the Senate on the 14th of September 2020 proposed the startup bill for introduction to the Senate that is sure to pique the interest of Kenyan entrepreneurs and investors who have an eye on this region. If passed, the bill proposes to establish the Kenyan National Innovation Agency to create partnership and among locals and international business incubators. So the emerging entrepreneurs are seeking 10% of pension funds raised towards boosting the startups and innovations.
The startup bill was a very revolutionary idea in that it gives a framework for how innovative and disruptive companies should and be treated in this economy. We think that it's a little bit shallow in terms of policy interventions that could help the entrepreneurs, and we feel that it is our duty as per the Constitution to come and say, as emerging entrepreneurs, these are the things we think we should do. Is that the pension market, the local pension fund manages over $1 trillion shillings, right? That's a lot of money. Even in dollar terms, that's about $10 billion. So we were thinking, perhaps we should compel the local pension funds to invest 10% of that money into the local startup ecosystem. That way, they can start nurturing these local innovations to build businesses as big as Safaricom. All these disruptive business models and business owners know where you should tax them. It's just that no one has ever come and asked us, how can we work together?
All right, I wrap up Switch Business. Now it's time for sports.
And from the sports desk, Manchester United suffered a rare shock after conceding an embarrassing opening goal by former Chelsea striker Dembe, as they were silenced by Champions League first-timers Istanbul Başakşehir. United's only goal was hammered in by Anthony Martial at the 43rd minute.
There were more problems for the Red Devils in the opening half when the home side broke through.
And again, the pace on the...
Well, that sports story wraps up our news broadcast tonight. My name is Lincoln Ombogo, our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Stay tuned because